Hey friends, so today we're going to tackle our last lesson in this unit of unit price and currency exchange. And we're going to talk about currency exchange rate. Now, this is something that's important when you go to travel, right? There's thousands of different countries in the world, and every country has its own currency, so its own type of money. In Canada, we have the Canadian dollar. But if you went stateside, if you took a road trip down to Montana or went to Disney World or wherever you want to go, chances are they're not going to take your Canadian money. They want you to pay in American money. So we need a way of converting a dollar Canadian into whatever it's going to be American, okay? And those numbers are called currency exchange rates, okay? So couple things I want you to know right off the bat. Number one, these guys change by the second when the stock market is open, okay? So currency rates are always changing. And there are websites, I'll show you some, that will give you like the most up-to-date information possible. But I don't want that to stress you out, because what we'll do is we'll establish what a rate will be for a given scenario, and then you just have to use the number we give you, okay? The nice thing about this is it's just setting up proportions, okay? So all throughout this unit so far, we've been setting up proportions and we've been trying to solve for an unknown through cross multiplication. It's the exact same thing, okay? So once you understand the concept, the math behind what we're doing today actually is not going to be difficult for you at all. You're going to be awesome, okay? So different countries all have their own currency. For example, the United States has the American dollar. Mexico has the peso. Living in a global world, we need to be able to switch money from one currency to another. I'm just going to hide my face so you can get a screenshot of that if you need to. Okay, so exchange rate is the price of one country's currency in terms of another country's currency. Okay, and just like I said, it's just like setting up a proportion. It's going to be easy peasy. Okay, currency rates change by the second while the stock market is open. Many websites will give you a real-time exchange rate throughout the day. Now I'm going to show you this one. This is xe.com, exchange.com. So just give me a second to share my screen or change my screen. I want to head over to this one. Okay, so I've taken you over to, this is xe.com, okay? And I've set it up. Let's say we have, I don't know, let's say we have 1,000 Canadian dollars. Where do we want to go? Do we want to go travel to Mexico for a nice, warm, sunny vacation? The date I am taping this particular video lesson, it is cold and rainy outside. So Mexico sounds really, really good at the moment. Okay, so let's say we have 1,000 Canadian dollars and I want to convert that to Mexican pesos. So we look for Mexican pesos. So I'm just scooting down here. Oh, we got Thai bahts there. There's the Mexican peso. Okay, you see that right there? So I'm going to click on that and I'm going to say convert. So if I had 1,000 Canadian dollars, I would have 12,000 and 12,600 Mexican pesos. Okay, now really good point, since they did this for me already. I want to show you right now. Do you see how they bolded the first two decimal places of your answer? See how this 3 here is not there? Well, it's there, but it's faded out. Currency is always rounded to 2 decimal places, okay? 2 decimal places for currency. So I say that because we're not going to tell you that in the question. We just assume that you're going to round to 2 decimal places. Okay, so I'm going to take you back to our PowerPoint, okay? And we'll just finish this up here. So converting between currencies is really just finding the exchange rate and setting up a proportion. Okay, so class example number 1. Adriana will be going to Paris with her family over spring break. Yay for Adriana. Her parents have given her a spending budget of 300 Canadian for souvenirs. If 1 Canadian dollar is worth 0.66129 of a euro, how many euros will she have to spend in Paris? Now, I'm going to hide my face for a sec, just so that those of you at home without the book can see the question. Okay, now, here's what I want you to see right off the bat. this line, 1 Canadian dollar is worth 0.66129 of a euro. That's your first fraction when you're setting this thing up, okay? We can say 1 Canadian dollar is 0.66129 euro. Okay, that's our exchange rate right there. And then what we do is we just set it equal to whatever. Now that's going to be on the next slide. I'm just going to bring my face back. And I'm going to delete that. We're just going to read this quick little note before we go to the next slide. Remember, the currency you put on top stays on top on both sides of the equation. Okay, and the currency you put on the bottom stays on the bottom for both sides as well. So it doesn't matter which one goes on top and which one goes on the bottom as long as you are consistent. Okay. Okay, so we have 1 Canadian dollar over 0.66129 euros, and then I had 300 Canadian dollars, and I'm looking for how many euros that is. Okay, so now I'm hoping that this stage looks super familiar to you and super comfortable. I'm going to do my cross multiplication. I'm going to go 300 times 0.66129, and then 1 times x is just x. So that's actually going to take me right to my answer, right? So 300, I times it by 0.66129, and then I divided it by 1 if you want to see the process there. But remember, dividing by 1 doesn't actually do anything. Okay, and that gives me 198.39 of a euro. Okay, 198.39. Awesome. All right. So unless otherwise told, round currency to 2 decimal places, just like we talked about when I was showing you the conversion on the internet. Okay. Okay, 1 Thai baht is worth 0.04261 of a Canadian dollar. How many Thai bahts would a tourist in Thailand receive for 400 Canadian dollars? Okay, I'm going to hide my face again just so you see the full question. And we've got our proportion all ready to go here. Again, I took exactly what I was told. 1 Thai baht is worth 0.04261 of a Canadian dollar. That's where this initial fraction comes from. 1 Thai baht and 0.04261 Canadian dollars. Now I have 400 Canadian. This time I had Canadian on bottom, so I keep Canadian on bottom. Okay, now I'm ready to do the cross multiplication. So I'm going to go 400 times 1. And then that's going to equal 0.04261x when I go that way. So then I'll have to divide both sides by 0.4261. Okay, so I've got 400 times 1, and I divide it by 0.04261. I just did all that in one step for us. Okay, and then that's going to give us 9,384.47 Thai bahts. Okay. Okay, so for now, I'm going to pause there. You have some on my own questions to try. I'd like you to try numbers 1 to 5. Make sure you're checking your answers in the back of the lesson. And then once you're ready, come on back and we'll discuss buying and selling rates. Okay. All right, welcome back. Now, it says use the following chart to complete the remaining examples and questions. Now I'm going to come back to this chart in a second. I want to explain in your notes what the buying and selling rates are. Okay, then we'll come back and look at this. It can look confusing, but it's not that bad. Okay, so the selling rate is the rate the bank sets when they are selling foreign currency to you. So you're walking into the bank and saying, I need Mexican pesos for my trip. Okay, so the bank is selling you Mexican pesos. Okay, then there's a buying rate. The buying rate is the rate that the bank sets when they are buying foreign currency from you. So now let's say you're coming back from Mexico and you have 1,000 pesos left over. You can't spend your pesos in Canada, so you want to put that back into Canadian money. You go to the bank and you say, here's my 1,000 Mexican pesos. Can you buy it back and give me Canadian cash for it? Okay. Often the buying rate is lower than the selling rate, so they pay you less than they charge when they sell it to you. You have to remember that banks are always trying to make money, right? Okay, so if we go back to this chart one more time, you can see, let's just say, let's pick on the United States because it's right on top here, okay? So $1 US, see it says 1 international unit. So $1 US, if the bank was buying it, it would be 1.2839 Canadian. But if the bank was selling it, it would be 1.3532. Okay, so notice that the rates are slightly different, and that's so that the bank can make money on both sides of the transaction. So it's not really something you just want to convert. Like if you just convert it to US and then convert it right back to Canada just to have fun, you'd actually lose money. Okay, so don't do that. Okay, so class example number 3. Jacob just returned from a trip to Kenya and has leftover Kenyan shillings, which he wants to convert back to Canadian dollars. Okay, so when he goes to the bank, what is the exchange rate that Jacob will receive according to the exchange rate chart? So Jacob is walking, oh, let me hide my face for a sec so that you can get the full question there. All right, so Jacob is walking into the bank with these Kenyan shillings and wants the bank to buy it back. Okay, so we are looking for the buying rate of Kenyan shillings. The bank is buying Kenyan shillings from Jacob. So we head over to our exchange rate. We're looking for Kenyan shillings, okay? And we can see Kenya's right here. There's the shillings, okay? And we're looking for the buying rate. So it would be that number right there, the 0.01164. 0.01164. So now that's going to give us our exchange rate. 1 Kenya shilling is worth 0.01164 Canadian dollars. Okay, so here is our exchange. Just like I said, 1 Kenya shilling is worth 0.01164 Canadian. So that's going to be our first fraction. And we have, that's the next question. Sorry, I was like, how many shillings do we have? That's part B. If he had 3,000 Kenyan shillings, how much will he get back in Canadian dollars? So we set up our proportion. 1 Kenya shilling is 0.01164 Canadian. And then I have 3,000 shillings. So shillings was on top here. So shillings is on top here. And now I do my cross multiplication. I'm going to go 3,000 times 0.1164. Sorry, 0.01164. And then I'll divide by the 1. Okay. And that gives me, I will get 34.92 Canadian. Don't forget, automatically round to 2 decimal places. Okay. All right, awesome. Let's try class example number 4. You decide to take a trip to Denmark. I'm going to just hide myself for 1 sec. Use the given exchange rate chart to find the bank selling rate for the Danish kroner. How many kroner will you receive for $500? $500. Okay. All right, so we want the bank to sell us kroner. So we're looking for Danish kroner and we're looking for the selling rate. Okay, so we go back to our chart. Here's Denmark. Okay, there's the krone. And we're looking for the selling rate. So we're looking at that number right there, 0.0218 or 2018, sorry, 0.2018. So 1 krone is worth 0.2018 Canadian. Okay, that's our exchange rate that we're going to use. So 1 krone is worth 0.2018 Canadian. And then I have 500 Canadian that I want to get into krone. So I have Canadian on the bottom here. So I have Canadian on the bottom here. Now I'll go 500 times 1 and divide by 0.2018. Okay, 500 times 1 divided by 0.2018. That gives me 2,477.70 kroner. Okay. Awesome. Okay, now watch this next part. After purchasing your kroner, you decided not to go to Denmark and sold the kroner back to the bank. So you never went. You have exactly what the bank gave you, and you're going to give it all back to the bank. And you're going to say, hey, friends, can you buy this back from me, right? This is not the bank selling it to you anymore. This is the bank buying it back. So we need to look for the buying back rate. Okay, so now we're going to go back to our table. We're going to look at Denmark, and we're going to look for the buying rate. So now the buying rate is right here. Okay, So now we're looking at 0.1876. So I know how much kroner I have already. I'm gonna now use this exchange rate to see if I can put it back into Canadian money, okay? So I've got my exchange rate of 1 krone is 0.1876 Canadian. Now I have 2,477.70 kroner, and I'm going to figure out how much Canadian that is. So I go 2,477.70. I'm going to multiply by the 0.1876 and then divide by 1. Okay, and that's going to give me 464.82 Canadian. So look what happened. I started originally with 500 Canadian. I got to the bank to sell me kroner. Then I took my kroner, I gave it back to them and said, buy it back, please. So the bank's like, we're happy to do that. The bank buys it back, but I end up with only 464.62 Canadian. So in that transaction, I've actually lost money, okay? So I started with 500, I ended up with 464.82. I actually lost $35.18 just from doing that transaction, okay? That one was a little bit more in-depth. This is a good one to go back and watch if you're feeling a little stressed, okay? I don't want you to feel stressed about this. I want you to see that it is just setting up proportions like we've done for the last few lessons, okay? Okay, awesome. So now you are gonna check out the On My Own number 6 to 10, and that's gonna finish this lesson, okay? So once all that's done and you've checked your answers in the back of the lesson, you should have now completed pages 27 to 32 for this lesson. And that actually is going to finish our unit, which means now we will be preparing together for a little assessment to test your knowledge of the unit, okay? So use these notes to study, use these videos to study, and as always, make sure you're asking me lots and lots of questions, okay? You guys got this. I'll talk to you soon.